Am I wrong for wanting a painting made by my late sister in my house, even though it triggers my husband, who's her widower? I, 34 female, had one sibling who was 25 when she passed. She died in a car crash just 3 months after her wedding. It has now been 12 years since her passing. We were very close and more like best friends and then sisters. My now husband, 38 male, Adam, was a constant presence in my family's lives even after her death, as he would visit my parents regularly and they dote on him very much. 5 years ago, we started getting close and got married 2 years later. My sister used paint as a hobby and had left behind 8 paintings. My parents took 2 for themselves, I took 3, and my parents gave away the rest to her close friends, and they offered Adam to take any he wanted, but he refused. I really liked the 3 paintings and displayed them in my apartment proudly before getting together with Adam, as I felt closer to my sister, but once we became a thing, the paintings seemed to upset him, so I kept them in storage instead. I understand everyone grieves differently, and for Adam, anything associated with her triggers him, and he goes back to that awful day when he found out she was gone. We have no pictures of her at our house or any memento left by her. All this time I've been understanding, but I feel like I've completely erased her from my life and brought up the subject of displaying one painting to commemorate her in our house the other day. Adam shut the idea down immediately and refused to even hear my side. I was hurt by this as I've been considerate to him all these years, but he didn't even think to consider my feelings about the situation. It worsened when I suggested grief counseling together today, which made him even more upset. He wasn't yelling, but he was clearly distraught by me continuing the subject. He said he already went through grief counseling and my insistence is just opening old wounds. I was angry at the time and told him why did he ever consider marrying me when the thought of her makes him this upset and knowing how much she meant to me. He told me he can't handle me or this conversation anymore and went to his brothers to cool off as he doesn't want to say anything he'll regret later. Now all alone I'm thinking I might have taken things too far. So am I wrong here? Ew, like that's so weird. Am I the only one who thinks that's like nasty? Like, yes, you're wrong. You're wrong. Am I wrong for telling my friend I don't want to be her bridesmaid anymore? My friend Mary and I have known each other since we were children. We've grown apart over the past few years, but she still considers me important enough to make me a bridesmaid. Her wedding is set to be in 3 weeks. One reason why I sort of distanced myself from her was because of her treatment of my relationship. My boyfriend Jack and I have been together for 3.5 years. He's a wonderful person and there is no doubt in my mind that this is the man I want to marry. But Mary is under the impression that Jack is too good for me. Jack comes from a very wealthy background. His parents are certainly very wealthy. He was practically guaranteed a lavish life from the moment that he left the womb. I grew up in a low-income neighborhood, often wondering where my next meal was or how I was going to help pay the bills at a young age. Jack is considered to be conventionally attractive, always looking like he should be on some sort of magazine or billboard. Jack's good looks and background have led Mary to believe that Jack deserves better than me, as according to her, there's no way I could have pulled someone so attractive and rich. It's pretty disheartening to hear those things constantly, and it does take a toll on you and the friendship. Whenever Jack is around, she's quite polite and respectful, never once making these comments. Eventually, the comments did stop. Mary invited me for lunch with her fiancé and his friend Gary. From the moment I arrived, Mary and her fiancé were consumed in their own conversation, paying no attention to the both of us. It was fine, as Gary seemed to be a great guy and we easily chatted. He asked me why I was single, and I told him that I was in a happy, committed relationship. He was very taken aback by my answer. He told me that Mary had set up a blind double date of sorts for the both of us. I was very confused and slightly angry. I didn't want to be confrontational at lunch, especially in public, so I just carried on with the lunch. Luckily, Gary wasn't upset and ended up making a few jokes about the whole ordeal. I called Mary later on in the day and asked her a ton of questions about why she thought it was okay to do that. At first, she tried to deny it, but then she tried to justify it by saying that Gary is a man who's more in my league, and since he was also a groomsman, we needed to get to know each other better. I was shocked at her bluntness, so I just told her that I didn't want to be her bridesmaid anymore. Granted, it was a pretty impulsive decision, but I still stand by it. Mary didn't take it well, trying to apologize and saying that it was a mistake. It's been a few days and her fiancé has been texting me asking me to suck it up for the wedding. I feel petty and conflicted right now. So, am I wrong for what I did? Am I the asshole for marrying my sister's baby daddy? I, 36-year-old female, and my sister, 29 female, got pregnant when she was 18 years old. I'm infertile and knew I couldn't have kids, so when my sister said she was giving her baby up for adoption, I decided to be her mom. My sister went no contact 5 months after giving birth. For a bit of background, my sister got pregnant by a one-night stand and she apparently didn't remember or know the father at the time of birth, but when my daughter V was born, a man T, 35, messaged me on social media claiming to be the father of my child. My sister had run into him at a club and drunkenly confessed to the pregnancy. We met up, he bonded with his daughter, and well, that man is now my husband of 7 years. Coming back to my sister, she called me yesterday. Although I was surprised at her call, I picked up. We made some small talk and then she said she had just gotten married a year back and both of them wanted children but couldn't because her husband was infertile but really wanted kids. I asked her if she wanted to adopt and she said no, she just wanted her baby back. I was speechless for a few moments before replying that if she wants to meet my child as an aunt, she is welcome to, and we can both sit V down and explain the reason for her absence, but she can't just ask me to give up my child. My sister said she'll sue me as she is the birth mother. I told her she was out of her mind, and then I told her how I married the baby daddy, T. She exploded, calling me names and saying I stole her life. My husband came home from work, and when I explained to him, he was beyond furious. I then got a call from my parents saying I was an asshole for telling my sister she's not allowed to see her baby. I never said that, and I welcomed her to bond with V, but they refused to listen and said I was being insensitive and harsh and flaunting my family. I now feel bad because my sister and I were very close growing up, and I feel quite close to her situation since I know the struggles of infertility. My husband said there was no way he was letting my sister have full time alone with V, and I agree, but I want to know if I'm the asshole for being too harsh and telling her about T. Am I the asshole for wearing white at my blind cousin's wedding? I'd like to start by saying that me and my cousin, who was blind from birth, aren't very close, but we get along well as relatives. She sent me an invitation, though we don't talk as much, but since I wanted to take a break from work, I decided to go. My favorite color is white. I love wearing white because it brings out my skin glow and makes me feel comfortable and confident. I purchased a maxi white dress, nothing fancy, but goes well with my skin tone, and wore it to the wedding. There wasn't a big party with many guests, but sort of family dinner and small celebration. I really thought no one would even notice I was wearing white. My cousin and her husband obviously didn't know because no one told them, but my aunt kept giving me uncomfortable looks the entire evening, and so did my other cousin. Once I decided to leave, my aunt pulled me aside and berated me for wearing this color at her daughter's wedding. She said that just because her daughter is blind doesn't mean she's stupid and doesn't know what's going on around her, basically saying I brought negative energy and disturbed the celebration by having guests notice and by extension my cousins as well. She gave a lengthy lecture and asked if I hate to see her daughter happy and whether I pulled a stunt because my blind cousin got married before me. I was like, whoa, calm down, none of this was true. And married before me? I never thought of that. I just wore my favorite color and didn't do it because my cousin is blind and wouldn't notice. I argued with my aunt for trying to dictate what I wear, but she defended herself saying I was a guest and should have respected the bride. I left feeling very upset and exhausted from that encounter. My boyfriend said he believed I used the fact that my cousin is blind to wear white, but this didn't fly with her family. He pulled the "I told you so" line and said I just made my family hate me with that stunt. Even though he knows I always wear white, but he warned me that if my cousin finds out, there's going to be some issues. He suggested I get ready to apologize, but I really see no reason to apologize since I chose to wear a comfortable color that I feel confident in. So, am I the asshole for wearing white to her wedding? Am I the asshole for telling the truth at my best friend's wedding during my toast? I'm a 30-year-old male and my best friend got married last week. I just bought a house and my wife is expecting our son in November, so I let him know I was limited in what I could contribute financially. But I did tell him I would try my best. So I went to the bachelor party in Miami, I rented the tux, and paid for mine and my wife's dinner at the rehearsal dinner. I also had a gift of $300 that I was going to give them, but we will get to why I didn't. His fiancée at the time would text me multiple times a day with updates. Fine. I didn't always respond, and it got to the point where if I didn't respond at least once a day, I'd get a call from my buddy. She texted me for the following reasons. 1. My wife was not allowed to talk about our pregnancy at all. She didn't want anyone to focus on that more than her, the bride. 2. She was not going to order any special food for my wife. No one asked her to. My wife was fine with whatever she was going to be served. 3. I was not helping the groom enough. He had to help her with favors, seating charts, and programs, so I had to help him with those things according to her. 4. She said if I was a true best man, I would offer to pay for the bar bill. I don't even know what that means. 5. She had to read and approve my speech before the rehearsal dinner and wanted to be included as much as my buddy. She told me to make things up if I had to. I was not allowed to include anyone but the two of them, and no inside jokes or stories about my buddy that didn't include her. 6. Her last text said to tell my wife to keep it together and not make a pregnancy scene during the wedding. Also, she wanted her to choose a dress that downplayed her pregnancy as much as possible. I was just so aggravated, I spoke to my buddy to see if he could reason with her. He told me to just play ball this one time, it's her day, and to cut him a break because he'd be dealing with her nonsense for the rest of his life. The day of, all the bride and my best friend do is scold me, berate me, and bark orders. I head down to the bar for the drink. The bride's mother is there and warned me not to get drunk because I ruined her daughter's day enough. That was the final straw. I didn't give them the card with the cash, and in the speech, I used my friend's exact wording about having to deal with her nonsense for the rest of his life. I wished him the best and told him I'd always be there for him, especially during the divorce. So, am I the asshole? Yeah, you are, but good job. Am I the asshole for taking away my daughter's car for lying to my fiance? I, 36-year-old male, have a 16-year-old daughter. I have full custody of her because her mom had a mental breakdown and has been in and out of rehab. This January, I started dating my girlfriend who is 21 years old. Then quarantine happened, and that time apart made me realize that I wanted to spend my life with her. So I proposed in May and she moved in, and our wedding is in October. Since then, my daughter has been a nightmare. She and my younger sister, who's 25, keep calling my fiance the kid. My fiance decides to invite my daughter out to go shopping. She kept trying to set a date, but my daughter kept saying she had an extracurricular activity she needed to tend to. So yesterday, when my daughter once again made up the excuse, I decided to follow her car. She ended up pulling to a diner.